Now, would the world be safer with Donald Trump as president? 0207 862 2222. Give us a call. The former US president enjoyed a landslide victory at the Iowa caucus this week, winning 51% of the vote. The 77-year-old is now on track to win the Republican nomination and is expected to face Joe Biden in November's election. Trump is now claiming the world would be safer if he were in the Oval Office.
Russia would have never attacked Ukraine, would have never done it. Putin and I get along fine. We get along very well. That's a good thing, not a bad thing. Russia would have never attacked. Israel would have never been attacked. The Ukraine situation is so horrible. The Israeli situation is so horrible, what's happened. And we're going to get him solved. We're going to get him solved very fast.
It's a really interesting idea that no wars with Trump, and because he's been president, we can test it. So let's go back. Let's look at America's wars. Go back to the colonials versus Native Americans, which became known as cowboys and Indians, I guess. America's wars, that was the very starting point, and then it spins on, and there's an awful lot of them. So here we have the War of Independence. That's the English. That's us there. We won that. And then the Civil War after that was the bloodiest on American soil, for sure. Spin forwards. Century or two, World War I, involvement there, World War II, and at the end, we'll start our clock really from the end of World War II, from Hitler's suicide, and have a look here. And to do that, we should bring you all the presidents, starting with Truman, who dropped the bombs on Japan. So Eisenhower, not much in terms of new wars, but Korea and Vietnam for Kennedy, Johnson and Nixon. It ended under Nixon. So that was the end of those conflicts. And Carter prides himself, apparently, on never having started a war. You then go to presidents since 1980. So you start here with Reagan, Bush, Clinton, Bush, Obama, Trump. So Reagan invaded Grenada, and he also bombed Libya with planes launched from Britain. Bush Sr., Gulf War I. Clinton, Bosnia, much American involvement there. Then post 9/11, Bush Jr. had Gulf War II, and Obama got into such a tangle with Libya and Syria. And then, yes, President Trump could argue nothing happened. And so you get this on Facebook. Did you know this is the first 4-year term without a new war since Eisenhower? Facebook see that and they label that as false information. Because for a start, Jimmy Carter, we mentioned, but also it's different in declaring wars, which doesn't happen very often, and getting involved in something that's already happening, like, for example, Bosnia. But you could make the argument, Ayesha, that Trump had a presidency without any wars.
Oh, that's just so nonsense. That is absolute nonsense. In that case, you could say, well, under Donald Trump, there was this huge global pandemic that killed millions of people. I mean, that's a really fatuous argument. These are
or Russia, he said, Russia, I always go into a Trump impression, Russia would not have invaded Ukraine if I had been president. I'd get along with them.
But that's just completely counterfactual.
It's true, though, isn't it?
Well, that's
that he gets along with them.
Well, we don't know if he gets along.
Well,
he gets along with them because, let's be honest, Putin helped put him into office.
Yes.
No, my goodness,
you cannot just say that because there were no wars, that there were wars going on at that point. It's just that he chose not to get involved in them. You could say, as I go back, you could say he is the president that introduced a pandemic into the world. I mean, that's how fatuous it is.
But I don't know. Do you think it's almost touching on the truth, that, Tim?
I think there is some underlying truth to it. When Donald Trump was a controversial nominee for the Republican Party for all sorts of reasons, one of them was he stood in front of an audience of people who probably a few years earlier had put George W. Bush as their candidate, and he attacked the Iraq War. He was the first real Republican to completely repudiate that. And he's been anti-war for a long time. That's perhaps not the most important thing about him, though, that does, I think, give some basis to this claim, is that the whole thing about him, the controversy, the fact that he's a maverick, people around the world look at him and think, I don't quite know how he would react to something like this. They knew how, Putin knew how, or thought he knew how Biden would react, because Putin saw Biden leave Afghanistan in a hurry. We all remember those images of poor people.
We've got your mic has stopped working, so we're just going to sort that out. I'm so sorry, Tim. While we sort that, let's go to Derek in Northamptonshire. Hi, Derek.
Good morning, everybody.
How about the idea that you don't get any wars with Trump?
I think that's probably true. And I think recent history has proven it. I mean, there were no issues with Ukraine, Afghanistan, the Middle East, when Mr. Trump was
You've said that.
president.
She doesn't believe. Honestly, look at Ayesha's face here, Derek. She doesn't.
Are we just honestly thinking that when Hamas made their decision to go in on the 7th, they were like, oh, we're going to do this because Joe Biden is in? I mean, honestly, I think it's just a completely ridiculous
Derek might be right in thinking that Putin, they called Trump a loose cannon. The thing about loose cannons is you don't know when they're going to go off.
But that doesn't
And
mean the
Putin
world...
thinks, I'm not going to go into Ukraine because this guy might nuke us.
No, I mean, clearly one of the reasons why Putin has had his eye on Ukraine for a long time.
Look at that.
There has been a huge amount of kind of going in with Crimea. And also there was more talk of Ukraine wanting to join NATO, which Putin was completely opposed to. Also, we're talking about things being calm under Donald Trump. He could go to prison for inciting this insurrection
Apparently doesn't
where
matter.
a number of people died.
Apparently this doesn't matter to people. I'll come to you in a second, Tim. Thank you, Derek. Ian in North Ayrshire. Do you think that's right? We would get, essentially the world would be safer with Trump.
The world would be extremely dangerous. Donald Trump is an isolationist. He does not want to be in Europe. He doesn't. His best friend, according to the words coming out of his mouth, is Putin. When he was abroad at the conference, he denied the CIA, the FBI, the Homeland Security, all his own organizations who keep America secure.
But listen, the analogy, Ian, is you've got the biggest guy in the pub says, from now on, I'm not taking part in any fights. Are there more fights in the pub as a result or fewer?
No, you see, he is not interested in American foreign policy.
No. He doesn't want... But Tim, you think that's good? Tim thinks it's... Hang on, let Tim come in here. Isn't it good if, from your point of view, Tim, if Trump doesn't get involved, we have fewer wars? Is that right?
No, I think it's the unpredictability of him.
Right.
I agree with Ayesha about Hamas. I don't think Hamas thought about Biden or Trump at all. It was all about Israel for them. But I'm sure Putin does think about America. When he saw Biden quit Afghanistan, and basically he thought that communicated American withdrawal. I think with Trump in the White House, people wouldn't quite know what he would do. And I think it's unfair to say he's sort of not interested in foreign policy. He actually invested hugely in America's armed forces. American armed forces, the cuts that were made under the Biden-Obama presidency have been reversed. And he was the first president to use, I can't remember the exact name of it, but there's this Uber bomb he used in Afghanistan. Oh, right. He's willing to use weapons that Democrats haven't been.
Right.
Okay, so you can see
that as an upside, as a downside, but what it adds to is this sense that we do not know how this man would act. Let's not obsess him.
Ian, while you're there, with North Korea, he said they're going to be hit by fire and fury such as they've never known. And he then went and, there we are, he went and saw the guy. And it calmed us all down. Isn't that good?
No. The thing is, he grandstands. I could say he's disingenuous, or I could say that he's economical with the truth. But I'll use the word that comes to my mind easier. He's a liar. He'll tell a story to suit his own aims.
Okay, Ayesha.
Well, look, I mean, what we've established through the callers and from Tim is that his big concern is he is really good friends with President Putin. Right. And the argument seems to be, oh, he'll be a thoroughly good thing because Putin likes him. Have we lost our mind that we think it's a good thing to be giving more kind of succour to Putin? Who, by the way, one of the greatest things that happened to President Putin was Brexit, because it was more kind of,
Let's go to James in Cardiff. James, hi.
Hiya. As far as I'm concerned, the world would be a better place with Donald Trump in as the 47th president in the United States. America was a lot prosperous. So was the world, and a lot safer. And Ayesha, stop saying misinformation about Russia. The Russian hoax which was proved to be a Russian hoax. No one was ever charged of it, and Donald Trump has never been charged with insurrection.
Flynn, what about
So
Flynn?
get your facts correct.
That's not true. That's
Yes, it
not
is
true.
correct.
No,
You
that's
are
not
lying.
true.
No,
No,
James,
that's
lying.
not.
James, let her speak.
Everybody knows that there was a lot of Russian interference, and everybody knows that one of the people who is Trump's biggest cheerleader is President Putin.
Okay.
And I'll tell you, people who are not going to be safer with Donald Trump is going to be women in America because of this, the reproductive rights
Although
as
they
well.
vote for him. Yeah. James, are you... Sorry, the Russian hoax... Well, I guess we're going over old stuff,
Yeah,
but Russia
Jeremy, it's
wanted
absolute
him
nonsense.
elected and it may have helped him, right?
No, it was
Are you
the
sure?
Mueller report actually said no one was ever charged. General Flynn was charged with lying to the FBI.
Right.
You've got people like
So he
Ayesha
was
there
charged.
lying misinformation
No,
about Donald Trump. He
you
will become
have
president.
been-
He's coming
No.
back, baby. He's coming back.
We've got- it's all started again.
Yes,
Can I
Colin,
say something?
Listen,
Tim wants to-
syphilis is coming back. It doesn't mean it's a good thing.
All right, James, thank you. Keep calling.
Here's a question for you, when you do your end of section questions for the audience. Who put more sanctions on Russia? Was it President Trump or was it Biden or Obama?
You're going to say Trump.
Massively
Right.
more.
But
now,
also,
the
he
trouble with
doesn't want-
let me finish the
Yeah.
point, please, Jeremy. There's an awful lot of worry about things that Trump says, and I understand that. If you actually look at what he does, it's a much more conservative, much more sort of mainstream set of actions. He punished...
Like the insurrection, that was very calm.
You keep changing the subject to insurrection, Brexit, abortion. Let's keep on
They're
the
quite
issue
important
of...
issues.
They are, but we're talking about war at the moment, and you seem to want to talk about something else about Trump. And the problem is, because you don't like Trump, and I understand that, he has big downsides, you can't see that he might do some good in some areas. And I think
Let me ask you a question, Tim, about Ukraine. OK, let's take as a premise, had Trump been president, Russia would not have invaded Ukraine. You may disagree, but Putin thinks I don't want to wreck my own party, right? Well, now they're in Ukraine. I don't think Trump's going to do much to get them out.
I think it's a very difficult situation to sort now.
Right.
But I think it was credible to argue before the invasion that you have this character in the White House, you don't quite know what he's going to do.
Well, that is a counterfactual, and the question now is if we have Trump, and I think Trump will win. I actually think he is going to win.
It looks
I definitely
like it.
think he's going
well,
to win.
Biden's doing his best to lose it.
I think he is going to win. The question is, you've got Republicans saying that they are going to pull funding, American funding, for Ukraine. That is going to strengthen Putin. And if the other thing is, if Trump is sending out a signal that he doesn't want to be interventionist, he doesn't want to get in, what's going to happen with Taiwan?
Yeah, well, it may be that if Trump wins, that Ukraine effectively becomes part of Russia, which a lot will...
On Taiwan, there was no more China-sceptic leader than...
OK, Colin in North Staffordshire, we kept you waiting. Sorry, carry on. What do you want to say?
Only a few things. Basically, I think if Trump wins, first of all, America domestically will go very right-wing in all of its policies.
It might go a bit civil war, mightn't it? There were traces of that last time.
It may be. But in terms of internationally, the world will become less safe for several reasons. From our point of view, Trump will make America isolationist even further, and that will mean, or likely to mean, that our trade with America, our exports to America, will reduce.
Maybe.
But on a wider field, what's already been mentioned, Ukraine, kiss goodbye to Ukraine, because on the very day that Ukraine was invaded by the Russians, Trump said two things. He said, Putin is a good guy and Putin is a genius.
All right, thank you, Colin, very much. Janet in Warwickshire, do you think the world will be safer with Trump or not?
I think Trump is a very interesting character, and I think I agree with the person that's been talking your other end. He's an incomprehensible character. He's similar to Putin. Nobody knows exactly what he's going to do next.
No.
And because of that, everyone takes a little bit more care.
Yeah, well, there is that. It's a strange idea. The best argument for fireworks safety is to make really dangerous fireworks. I mean, that essentially... Anyway, I don't know.
It isn't, actually. That's the whole underpinning of the nuclear deterrence argument. You build these extraordinary, horrible weapons, and funnily enough, the very thought that they might be used
Oh, come on.
has meant that there hasn't been war between two
I mean, the idea that we're sort of eulogising Putin now in this conversation is, hey, he's a good thing because he's so unpredictable. He slaughtered so many Ukrainians. He slaughtered so many people in his own land. The idea that he's like some kind of good guy and we should be like, oh, it's great, Trump's coming in because he's really unpredictable. We don't know what he's going to do.
Yeah, it's like having a sign saying, beware of the dog when you haven't got a dog. Maybe it's the other way around.
Yeah, it's not a dog, like the psychopath.
Yeah, but he did have a button on his desk, apparently. You'll know about this, Alexis, which was, he said, that's the button for the nuclear weapons. And then at some point during meetings, he would hit it. And all it was to get someone to bring him a Diet Coke. And that was his joke.
Sounds great.